Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
You are about to listen to the Totally Super Awesome 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast.
This podcast is our fan tribute to the Incredible Hulk TV show. Be advised that has been exposed to radiation and we caution to listen at your own risk. You have now entered GammaCast.
Hello and welcome once again to the GammaCast. I'm your host, Charlie the Professor S, and with me as always is my skinny rich friend.
Hey, it's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. Always glad to have you. Welcome.
Always good to be here.
To Incredible Hulk, The Incredible Hulk, Season 3, Episode 19, A Rock in a Hard Place. If there was ever a more 80s drama name than A Rock in a Hard Place, I don't know what it is. But there you go. First air date, February 29th, 1980. Hey, remember, it was a leap year. So this episode only goes into rotation once every 4 years. Anyway, Season 3, Episode 19, David Brainard is arrested for carrying explosives for his little old lady and forced to help the FBI, who find out his true identity to catch her. The old lady, however, finds out about his other secret. Directed by Chuck Bowman, writers Kenneth Johnson and Andrew Schneider, of course starring Bill Bixby, Jack Colvin, and Lou Ferrigno. And, this is, it's a great episode. You get a lot of great character actors throughout it, but the one guy I really wanted to give a shout out to is Eric Server, who plays Randy. And what just blew my mind away when I was going through his history here, because of course, like everybody on who goes on The Incredible Hulk, these are staple character actors working in the biz, going from show to show. Do you know what show Mr. Server, who plays Randy, is had his longest run on, apparently? You're never gonna guess.
Can't. No.
Okay, well, actually, he was on two core 80s series. The first, probably the most obvious, is BJ and the Bear, where he. I'm sorry.
No. Never mind. I said the A-Team, but no.
No. BJ and the Bear, which is again one of these late 70s, early 80s shows, where he played Lieutenant Jim Steiger, who I believe was one of Sheriff Lobo's guys. And but most interestingly, he is the voice of Dr. Theopolis from Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Yes, I did not see that coming from a million miles away. And it just goes to show you that when it comes to voiceover work, you never know who that guy is,
Yeah.
Actually recently, what was it? I think it was called Sing, and the main character is the koala played by Matthew McConaughey, but he's not doing a Matthew McConaughey voice. And I'm like, wait. Because first of all, it strikes you suddenly that, oh my goodness, the Matthew McConaughey voice is a Matthew McConaughey voice. That's a voice he's just doing. But more to the point, he can do other characters. He could actually be a lot of different actors, but he keeps on getting cast as Matthew McConaughey, so he keeps on playing Matthew McConaughey. Now, granted, there's there's a lot of work from Matthew McConaughey's out there, but it was very very surprising to realize that. Anyway, yeah, but like I said, all these guys have a lot of works. This is technically a late 70s one, which is 1979. The guy who plays Garrett, J.J. Saunders, was on Salvage one of my favorite Andy Griffith vehicles. And for what it's worth, Mr. Saunders actually was in the 1978 episode of The Incredible Hulk, Controller. 747, where he played the air traffic controller. So again, they like to go to the well. And actually, that was the other thing. Eric Server, this is not his first Incredible Hulk. His first Incredible Hulk is Ricky, where he plays, and I'm just trying to find that episode here. He plays he plays Ted Roberts, the brother of Sam Roberts, who of course is played by series regular who shows up next episode, Gerald McRaney. So I mean, you can say it's incestuous. You can say it goes round in circles, but either way, these were guys who worked regularly and had work. One person I haven't actually checked yet is Robert Gray, who played the Rusky, who I thought looked a heck of a lot like Andy Richter. But this is fun. He was in Harper Valley PTA as Cliff Willoughby in every episode. If you remember Harper Valley PTA, the series starring the woman who played Jeannie from I Dream of Jeannie. That was a cute series based on a country music song, which was a thing we had back in the 80s. Okay. Any other thoughts on our actors, Mozz?
No, I didn't particularly recognize anyone.
Oh, see, that's the weird thing. Is like, to me, I recognized all of them, but I couldn't place where I knew. It's like, oh, I know that guy, but where do I know him from? And this is a series of people who you know them from somewhere. But like I said, that Dr. Theopolis, right out of left field. I did not. For those who don't remember, Dr. Theopolis is the circular, super intelligent computer that's worn around the neck of Beatty, which was the little sort of Egyptian-looking robot whose physicality was performed by, of course, play Noodles McIntosh in UHF. Oh, I'm blanking on his name. He's one of my favorite short actors. He's passed away now. Billy Barty. His physicality was played by Billy Barty. His voice, of course, by Mel Blanc. So I have way too much insane knowledge up in my brain sometimes. Okay, let's get.
Well, that's like doing the show.
Yes, let's get to this actual episode, shall we? So let's start with I've dominated the first few minutes of our show here, Mozz. What did you think of the episode?
I thought it was another sort of pedestrian episode. It's like every other episode. Wasn't anything terribly interesting about it. The drama was kind of okay. The Hulk outs were cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, I thought it was a pretty, run-of-the-mill episode.
It had some fantastic Hulk outs. It is another one of these episodes where you wonder how important a Hulk is to the story.
Yeah.
There are some stories where it is a Hulk story with people in it. There are other stories where people have a story that the Hulk has been put onto. This is definitely an episode where the Hulk has been put onto the story. What
I did find interesting was that we got an opportunity to have somebody else see him become the Hulk, or quite reverse in this case, but to know what his situation actually is, and for him to share that, with somebody, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
We never get that.
No, we never get that. And then, of course, within that whole concept, there is this sort of the reverse concept with Randy, who clearly should know after he locks David in the freezer, and David hulks out, should know he's a Hulk, and yet still threatens him with a gun later. You know?
Right. No, but see, to me, that was, I could let that go because he did sort of knock him out, and maybe he woke up and he was so jumbled, then your brain rearranges memories. That couldn't be what happened. Something happened, and I don't want to talk about it, but whatever,
Yeah. I mean, I can certainly, there's ways you can work around it.
Yeah, because most people, when they get abducted by aliens, they don't immediately go out and talk about it because everybody knows what happens if you do that. You're labeled crazy, and nobody hires you anymore.
Yeah. Well, unless you're Jimmy Carter. So.
Fair point.
Yeah,
Fair point.
Man. Just remember, we've had presidents who thought crazy things in the past, so we will survive.
I don't think the Jimmy Carter thing is so crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I myself have never thought that if you were alien life form capable of interstellar travel, that Georgia's the first place you're going. I don't know. That's me.
Yeah.
Anywhere on the planet. I mean, yeah.
Well, I guess it also comes to who he is. He's an important person, and maybe they could sort of see that or know that, and we're visiting him before. I don't know.
Well, you never know where it's all going to go, but yeah, and he never said he was abducted. He just said he's seen things.
Awesome.
Yeah. And fair enough to Jimmy Carter. He's he's looking pretty nice now. But every president looks better in hindsight. There may be a time when we're looking at President Camacho, and we're saying, oh, if only he had the dignity of a Donald Trump. Although, for what it's worth, I am a big defender of President Camacho in Idiocracy, just because they actually make this. They make several points. First off, that he is actually not as dumb as everyone else, because they do make the point that Not Sure scored better than President Camacho, suggesting that President Camacho was actually the smartest man in the world in Idiocracy. Or at least up until that point, that he was seen as this, great intellect of the day. And of course, that's what I will always say about the world of Idiocracy. For as bad as people want to say it, it was a world where people actually were trying to make things better. They just didn't know how. And President Camacho really believed in doing well by the people of America. He took his job seriously to the point that, for me, I really wish Donald Trump took the presidency as seriously as President Camacho did. But yeah, you can hope. You can hope and bear. You can hope and dream, and maybe he will. Maybe it's a growing curve. The man may be a statesman yet. You watch. He turned a joke series called The Apprentice into a complete brand reimaging for himself. You know what? Don't count the guy out. I just don't want him murdering people. That could have been the work of
really good producers, too, though.
Yeah, well, exactly. He's got to get better producers. This Banyan guy, he's a lousy producer. That's all I'm going to say. I've not seen any of his work, and I know all of his work is bad. That's what I'm going to say about Banyan. Yeah, he got him there, but let's be honest here.
Yeah.
He's not the best producer. He needs a good guy. He needs a guy like Rob Reiner. He needs a guy who's actually got some gold statues in his thing. It's like Wag the Dog. One of my favorite films. Yeah.
Although to that point, though, I mean, he was pretty masterful in helping Trump win. Do you know about his company, Cambridge Analytica?
Not particularly. What have you heard?
It's a firm that analyzes big data. So essentially, you remember when Facebook used to have these profiles? You could see what profile you were on the 5 personality quotient kind of thing, introversion, extroversion, how paranoid you are and these sorts of things.
I'll go along with it, sure.
Okay, so Facebook did this thing a while back, and what the developers realized was that it gave them incredible insight into how people think and how they would possibly behave, or more probably behave. So within 80% certainty, they could figure out, based on your likes, whether you were straight or homosexual, whether you were religious or not, and a tremendous amount of information that they could pull from this. So this guy somehow took that technology and applied it and was able to test out everything that Trump said during his debates before the debates. So they would run ads on Facebook and see which phrasing they got the most engagement on, and those are the phrasings that he would use in the debates. And it's pretty scary, the type of accuracy they're able to have.
Well, yeah,
and
but you know what? See, here's the thing about all of that, and it's great for a one-off. You see, that's the thing. It's what you call, it's your basic pump and dump scheme. You talk up the stock, you drive up the price, and then once the price goes up, you sell it and leave everybody else holding the bag. And that kind of thinking is great for a pump and dump. And that's essentially what Trump is he's pumped up a lot of people to certain ideas.
Yeah.
Except, he now has a job for 4 years,
Right.
He doesn't get to dump it,
No, but I think the payoff there is now Bannon is his chief strategist, and now he gets to reap all the benefits and make all the money from being in office.
Yeah,
and
well,
the
scarier
surely, part to me is the influence that he's able to have over elections and over people. And now different candidates from different elections in different countries win. And I think he had a lot to do with Brexit also. This company, Cambridge Analytica.
I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, the thing of it is, and we're actually supposed to be talking about the Hulk here, but the thing of it is here, like I said,
I think that speaks to the strength of the episode.
Yeah, well, you always have to go where the conversation takes you, and I think that's what's interesting about podcasts is you can start with the Hulk and you wind up here. But what I will say before we get back to the Hulk is just this idea that, Donald Trump won by the narrowest of margins. In fact, he won by as we pointed out, by a 3 million vote loss. But where he won, he won strongly. And this is the inherent problem for the Republican Party. They can win, but only if they don't offend each group that votes for them. Which is fine when you're dealing with, moderate conservatives, like me, like a lot of guys who are really, generally speaking, pro-business, pro-growth, but, who do believe in science and outcomes and things like that, you have to actually be honest and look at what you're actually talking about and doing. And, we're the guys that are easy not to offend. The people who are, rabid racists and, people who are conspiracy nuts, they're a lot harder not to offend because as soon as you say, well, you're kind of wrong, people get mad and they don't want to vote for you. And the Republicans have found themselves in this point where, yes, they can have this group of people that have, solid policy arguments that they'd like to talk about to make a better, more efficient economy. And then you have these nut jobs. And you can't win without the nut jobs. And this is, interestingly enough, kind of where the Democrats had found themselves in prior to the 90s, before the Democrats made a sharp centrist turn. Where the Democrats were in this spot where they could get these big movements, but they couldn't offend this group or that group or that group or that group. And, of course, even now you have this fact that every time a Democrat gets elected, suddenly everyone's saying, oh, well, he's not really doing for us the way he should be, the way we wanted him to, because they're trying to hold together this massive, impervious into a unum, and that's the thing, is that holding that together is almost impossible. And so, which is why really, and I think you're going to see these shiftings back and forth. But in the end, no one, it's like this, the more delicate your power structure, the less you can get done.
The people that are running just to placate the masses so that they can get into power to reap the benefits for themselves. And that's, I think, what we're dealing with here. And that's what I think is most disheartening to me.
Well, yeah, I mean that's your basic, Ulysses S. Grant's storyline. I mean, though Ulysses S. Grant was not and in many ways, you can actually even put Ulysses S. Grant into that same field as Donald Trump, and this idea of a man who was recognized for his greatness in a completely different area, put into office by people that were seeking to reap rewards, and then sort of had no control over them as they reaped those rewards,
Right.
Right. Yeah, so, anyway, so let's get back to the Incredible Hulk, because we're 20 minutes in, and we've barely we've talked a little bit about the great characters in it, the great actors in it. Like we said, this is kind of a pat story. I mean, it's a fun story for me. I mean, because this is a heist job. This is, criminals. I love the fact that everybody knows a little bit of David's secret.
Right.
Lucy knows that David's the Hulk, but doesn't know who David is. Preston DeKalb, our FBI agent, knows who David is, but doesn't know that he's the Hulk. Jack McGee isn't even in this episode, which is so sad because this is like the perfect moment for Jack McGee to be here. But of course, everyone's on the DL here because of course this is a criminal enterprise and a law enforcement enterprise, and you can't in either group go talking out of school. Because the second you talk out of school, you're going to either mess yourself up or get you'll mess yourself up. Either your case will be blown or your scam will be blown.
And also, I think the universe can't allow Jack McGee to actually, get anywhere. So there's too many people that knew too much. And it would have been way too hard to create a story that justifies him not getting the answers he would be looking for out of that,
Yeah, well, see, and this is something I'm wondering about next episode called Death Mask, which has David arrested as a serial killer, and which has, and it's interesting because we have Gerald McRaney coming back. Gerald McRaney we last saw in The Disciple as a police officer. He's playing a police officer again. I don't know if it's going to be the same police officer. I don't know if it's someone who has a relationship with David or not. And I don't, and this is an episode where Jack McGee's coming into it. So I'm really excited about next episode. But right now we're still in Rock and a Hard Place. So I'm excited for that episode, but we'll see what. Anyway, Jeanette Nolan, who's playing Lucy Cash, has long dreamed of pulling a big heist. Her husband was a mobster. I believe they said he was with Lansky's crew. We're taking place in Atlantic City, and it's very cool. We get this Basically, we see that the whole crux of it is that Preston DeKalb, played by John McIntyre, our grizzled old FBI agent, has held a torch for Lucy Cash, originally using her as essentially a honeypot. A honeypot for Al, who was again in Meyer Lansky's crew, but then she got stuck in her own honeypot. She fell in love with Al and decided that was the life for her, not the 9 to 5 of drudgery, but the excitement of being the wife of a successful mobster. And and I find that the fact that there's this apparently 30 to 40 year old unrequited love story.
Oh, right.
At the core of this is such an interesting bit, especially in the sense that Lucy seems like she was good to go with Preston on a lot of levels, but that, she liked the bad boys.
And he wouldn't have let her rob banks,
No. But as he said, as she says, this is the first time she's robbed a bank, and as we get to at the end, now that she realizes, bank robbing is wrong and people get hurt, that she doesn't want to rob banks anymore, which I guess is a noble sentiment, all told. But it is one of those sentiments where it's like, well, are we a little too little, too late on that? On that realization that maybe robbing banks isn't just like in the movies,
I think it was more that she just didn't want to go to jail.
Well, yeah. Well, here's what we'll say about her. She's a survivor, getting, and man, being remanded to somebody's custody. I mean, I know it, well, let me put it this. I know it's a thing in TV land. I don't know how often that's really happened, that some criminal gets remanded to the custody of a officer of the court. I mean, certainly that was the entire premise for Hardcastle and McCormick, which was fun, classic 80s series. But
and
yeah. But at the same time, the whole time I'm watching this, I almost kind of felt like this should have been a backdoor pilot, of that we were going to have a spinoff called Preston and Cash, where these two unlikely senior citizens, he's an ex-FBI agent, she's an ex-gun mall. They work together, they solve crimes. I kind of felt like, man, that's where we should be going with this. I kind of wanted that at the end. I wanted that Cash and DeKalb marquee at the end, but.
Well, in my head, in my mind, what happens is she goes with Preston, but her, the itch for the action won't be too far behind, and she's going to want to do something, and one of two things will happen. Either Preston will become an asset, and she'll use him to get away with more crimes, or he'll want to join in.
Yeah, well,
that's what I.
Well,
that's the romantic ending to the story.
Yeah, well, clearly Preston is obsessed with this woman, and now that he's got her where he wants her, she actually has him where she wants him. I mean,
Right.
to quote what's his name, Rorschach in Watchmen. You think you think I'm trapped in here with you? No, you're trapped in here with me. And I think that's sort of where Preston finds himself at the end. He is trapped in this relationship now with Cash, and she will get her way. You just wait. Okay. Let's see here. We get some nice, we get some great Hulk outs. I thought, we get the Hulk versus Pinball, which is always great. Anytime we get Hulk,
and then with the jukebox.
Oh yeah. Oh, and that was actually beautiful. I loved that scene.
Yeah,
because it is
that was so cool.
It is music hath charms to soothe the savage breast, as the Hulk, hears the song come on the jukebox. And he
it's almost like he was upset that it stopped playing, and he was like, "What happened to this? What happened? What happened?"
Yeah.
And finally another comes on, and he's like, "All right, time to relax."
It was an interesting choice where they have him shake it. I kind of wanted him to almost do like a Fonzie with it and just sort of like tap, But of course, that superhuman strength wouldn't work with if he does it with his elbow, That would have been a little too comedic, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is it? Was it? I want to say it was a Patsy Cline song, but I can't remember now. I want to say it was Crazy or I Go Walking After Midnight. I don't think it was a Walking After Midnight, but I want to say it was Crazy. But I feel like it was Patsy Cline, whoever it was. But I could be completely wrong on that. But it was a lovely old song, and it calmed David down, and then of course that's how Ms. Cash learns his secret. And then our other great Hulk out, which I was watching that today with my son, and he's looking at it, he's like, "Oh, it's Godzilla," because of course they chain David up and they throw him over into the water, And of course, then you see he's changing, but then you also see the bubbling up of the ocean, just before Godzilla rises, and
Yeah.
and then you see him
Yeah.
boom, 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 and he climbs out, and it is almost a kaiju kind of scene, and then of course he throws
Yeah.
the two bad guys into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, as you do. And apparently another guy is a good swimmer, but is okay at treading water.
Right.
It's like neither one of them just like swim to a pier and climb up and run away. No, they just sort of sit there and splash till our two elderly FBI agents show up. Yeah, I mean it was neat. For what it's worth, I love the fact that we're bringing in Russian mobsters in the 80s. Just to show you how prescient this show could get,
With horrible accents.
Yeah, well,
Right.
it's honestly, yeah, like I said, that guy, I mean, I guess he looks as Russian as anybody, but it was a little, yeah, I was almost ready for him to go into a Canadian accent, quite frankly, like I said. And the guy just looks so much like a young Andy Richter. And for what it's worth, one of the cops they tie up looks a lot like a young Ben Affleck. I mean, obviously not any of those people, because they're all much younger than would have been on this show, but it's like, wow, Okay, yeah, and of course, just to touch on it, of course, Lucy doesn't want to hurt anybody, but of course, and for what it's worth, it kind of gives this, the truth to this point, which Randy's like, we are the bad guys. We are the criminals. You can't want just everyone not to get hurt. That's not the way it works. We're blowing up a safe. We're stealing money. People are going to get hurt. And, it's about time for poor Lucy to come to that realization, which maybe she does, maybe she doesn't at the end. All we know, we just have to watch for that alternate universe where Cash and DeKalb got spun off into its own series. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts, Mozz?
No, I thought it was a run of the mill episode, but enjoyable.
Yeah, it's always enjoyable. It's a Hulk. What more do you want from a Hulk than that he becomes a Hulk? And yeah, it's definitely an episode where you don't need a Hulk, but it's still nice to have one.
Yeah.
Okay, Mozz, if anyone would like to reach out to you on the social media or the emails or any other method of communication that you would like them to reach out to you with, how can they reach you?
They can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
Okay, pretty awesome. And of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way we did back in the 80s, with that screech sound as we signed in to our AOL accounts. You can write to me, and I still have like 3 AOL accounts. Every so often I check into them just to see how much spam is there. It's a lot. You can always write to me on Twitter on the emails at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitters. I live tweet lots of shows, including occasionally when I'm not doing podcasts at 7 o'clock on Saturdays, The Incredible Hulk on MeTV, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, Saturday night. Follow me. Okay, and that's at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and Mozz specifically, thank you for hulking out with us tonight. Please hulk out with us again.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.